script routine. A Russian convoy rolled forward near Pokrovsk, vehicles spaced just enough to avoid a single catastrophic hit. Mixed transport, armored carriers, trucks, civilian-style vehicles, and motorcycles all moving with purpose. On the ground, it felt controlled. Familiar roads, known routes, the kind of movement commanders rely on when pressure builds. But above them, something else was already unfolding. Not chaos, not luck. A swarm of Ukrainian drones was watching, quietly, long before the convoy ever realized it had been spotted. This is the moment modern warfare changes shape, because today, battles are no longer decided when the first shot is fired, but when the first recon drone locks on to movement. And near Pokrovsk, that lock happened early. What makes this encounter different is not a single explosion or dramatic strike, it's the sequence. Recon drones didn't rush, they didn't attack, they tracked, timed, and mapped. Every vehicle became data, every pause revealed spacing, every engine sound confirmed direction. By the time FPV drones launched, the outcome wasn't a reaction, it was a plan already in motion. As the convoy advanced, Ukrainian operators waited for the worst possible moment, a narrow stretch of road, limited turnoff space, soft ground on both sides. This wasn't coincidence, this was route conditioning, allowing movement just long enough for confidence to build before collapsing it all at once. Then the first FPV strike hit. Not the lead vehicle, not the rear, but a key connector, freezing the column instantly. Within seconds, hesitation spread. Vehicles braked, gaps closed. Troops inside didn't dismount immediately because confusion is deadly when the sky is active. That hesitation was all the drones needed. One strike turned into two into four, and suddenly the convoy wasn't moving, it was trapped under observation. This is where drone warfare becomes psychological, because the real damage doesn't come from explosions alone, it comes from forcing human hesitation. Drivers don't know whether to accelerate, stop, or scatter. Infantry doesn't know whether to dismount or stay inside. Every second of uncertainty becomes visible to the air, and the drones never blink. What followed wasn't a chaotic massacre, it was layered pressure. FPVs targeted transport first, motorcycles and quad bikes trying to break away. Speed didn't help. Detection came first. One rider zigzagged toward a tree line, but the drone adjusted angle calmly and closed the distance. Another vehicle tried to reverse. Too late. The sky had already marked the escape lanes. Around Pokrovsk, this pattern has become familiar. Cheap mobility, motorcycles, ATVs, civilian cars is now the backbone of Russian frontline movement, not because it's ideal, but because heavier armor draws instant attention. A motorcycle is expendable, a quad bike is replaceable. Losing one hurts less than losing a BMP. But here's the problem. Repetition creates visibility. The same roads, the same hiding spots, the same tree lines. Recon drones don't need to strike immediately. They watch routes form, confirm them twice, and then hand targets off to FPV teams later. That's why soldiers moving alone near Pokrovsk often feel hunted, because in many cases, they already are. Before we continue, it's important to understand why this matters beyond one convoy. If you want clear, factual reporting on real battles, modern weapons, and how wars are actually being fought today, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It directly supports deeper reporting on stories like this, where tactics matter more than headlines. Back on the road near Pokrovsk, the strikes didn't stop once vehicles burned. That's the part most clips don't explain. FPV pressure isn't about dramatic moments, it's about denial. A damaged vehicle isn't neutralized if it can be recovered later. That's why drones returned. Abandoned transport was hit again. Movement stopped becoming temporary and started becoming permanent. This is where logistics begin to collapse quietly. A single motorcycle might carry ammo, batteries, food, or radios. Lose it, and a trench goes blind. A quad bike might be the only way to move supplies through mud and broken streets. Destroy it, and troops are forced to walk exposed routes instead. Each strike removes mobility, and the loss of mobility creates predictability, feeding the next strike. It becomes a loop. FPV drones don't need to wipe out entire units to win, they just need to thin the flow. When supply slows, morale drops. When morale drops, mistakes rise, and mistakes are exactly what the air punishes best. The most unsettling detail from this engagement is timing. The drones didn't rush daylight or darkness, they exploited transition moments when troops expect safety but haven't fully adapted. Night no longer guarantees concealment. Thermal cameras erase darkness. Snow and pale ground increase contrast. Tracks linger longer. Tree lines that look protective on a map provide little cover from above. A soldier stepping out of cover is visible earlier, leaving less time to react. Routes that once blended into terrain now stand out as clear lines of movement. And drones don't forget. One of the most revealing moments in the footage is not a strike, but a search. An FPV pilot slowly scanning a forest edge, moving meter by meter, treating shadows like clues. The target isn't obvious until a camouflage net appears. From above, a net doesn't hide presence, it confirms it. Perfect shapes don't exist in nature. And once confirmed, a second drone arrives to finish the job. This is the shift. Drone warfare is no longer about speed alone, it's about method. Recon drones observe, FPVs execute, cleanup strikes deny recovery. That system turns forests into searchable spaces and roads into data lines. A battlefield that once relied on concealment now punishes it when done poorly. Torn nets, neat parking, rushed hiding, all of it reveals stress, and stress creates patterns. Patterns get people killed. The strikes on armored vehicles underline another layer. A damaged BMP is not harmless if it can be repaired. That's why drones return to hit vehicles that appear abandoned. The goal is denial, not spectacle. Destroying recovery options slows maintenance cycles, drains spare parts, and forces maintenance crews to operate under drone threat. When recovery becomes combat, the entire system strains. Night no longer offers safety either. Thermal optics erase darkness. In several engagements, drones struck troop carriers and civilian vehicles while soldiers were still inside, before dismount, before dispersal. A column is weakest when it's still one shape. One hit freezes movement, hesitation spreads, and the swarm exploits it. In one reported case near Pokrovsk, a mixed Russian column, armored vehicles, cars, motorcycles, was hit less than a kilometer from its staging area. Vehicles burned, survivors tried to move on foot, drones followed. The distance didn't matter, the route was known, the timing was wrong. This is why the phrase drone swarm matters, not because of numbers alone, but because of coordination. Control room footage shows trained crews working as a system. Pilots receive tips, angles are checked, targets confirmed. Strikes look calm because the hunt began long before the final dive. And that calm is the most dangerous part, because it means FPV pressure can be sustained. Not one dramatic attack, but dozens of small ones, draining mobility, morale, and supply without a major assault. Around Pokrovsk, that pressure has turned movement itself into a liability. This doesn't mean the situation is fixed forever. If dispersion improves, if decoys multiply, if electronic warfare disrupts control links, the sky can blur. Short bursts of speed might regain value, but as long as recon to strike chains remain intact, movement will stay expensive. So the real question isn't about one convoy, it's about who controls the rhythm. Because in modern war, the side that decides when the enemy moves and when they don't is already winning long before the map changes. If you want clear reporting on real battles, modern weapons, and how wars are actually being fought today, like, share, and subscribe to Military Force.